Challenging times, to say the least, is where we're in right now. And at the moment, many people think, is it what I'm doing, what I really want to do? Is my life where it should be? And am I actually in the position where I should be at this point in time in my life? Finding who you really are and where you want to go might be challenging. And we have someone here who can help you with that. A woman who wants to make 1 million women walking. Hello and welcome, Heather Waring.
Hello, Niels. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you very much for taking the time. So when you say you want to make 1 million women walking, I of course have the question, why? What do you mean with 1 million women walking?
I mean, I want to impact the lives of 1 million women through walking. And the impact really is whatever that impact is for them. Because walking can actually affect us in so many ways, positively affect us in so many ways, both mentally and physically. So I hope that answers that a little.
Yeah, so when we talk about walking, because I am normally walking about at least 40 to 50 kilometers per week. So I'm a big fan of walking. What is your story? How did you find out that walking is beneficial to you or to others?
I always quite enjoyed walking, and I did a couple of big walks, kind of treks. First one for charity to the Great Wall of China, and then I followed that up with the Inca Trail, and I also trained some women to do a 2-day breast cancer walk. And I just find walking actually as a form of exercise, a form of activity that suited me. Because I think this is one of the issues, we all know probably that we should be taking more exercise, but it's no good picking a form of exercise that actually you're not going to make work for you,
Yeah.
Um, Sorry?
Yeah. So because my question of course would be, doing more exercise, why not do running?
Well, fine if you like running. I hate running. I always go over on my ankle when I run. So, and swimming, well, that's nice too, but actually I don't want to do it regularly enough. And myself and many other women will say the same thing. I have to do my hair and my makeup and everything afterwards. So walking you can do as soon as you walk out your front door. Walking you can do from your workspace. Walking you can take on holidays with you very easily, and it's not expensive. You don't have to invest in a whole lot of gear, unless you're of course into it in a much bigger way and you want to do some major trekking. Then you might have to buy more, but most of us can do it.
So when you say most of us can do it, some people will say, I live in an area where I don't think I can go for a walk. There is no forest close. It's a rather metropolitan city kind of area. What would you tell these people?
I would tell them that I think they need to be a little creative, but maybe I would tell them in a nicer way.
I am German, so that's fine with me, but for the others.
The thing is, I have worked with people and I've got them into walking, and they'll come back to me and say, do you know, I walked down the street I lived in today and I saw things that I haven't seen in all the years I've lived there. Because walking has a way of slowing the pace. And when it slows the pace, and I know you can power walk as well, and there are times when power walking is the right thing to do. But when you're walking and you're slowing the pace and you're looking around you, you can become much more mindful, and you do in fact notice things that you haven't seen. But cities offer great walking even if they haven't got green space. There's some wonderful architecture around, so open your eyes and look around, and I guarantee that nearly everyone who does that will find something interesting. And they're also, in lots of places, there are little green spaces that most people didn't even know about. And it's very interesting because over lockdown, my community, and I have a community now of over 4,000 women, they were all saying how they had to walk closer to home, and they'd all discovered paths and places and little parks that they never even knew existed. So I think if you look, you will find something of interest.
So when people now think about starting, what is the usual way to start? Is it like you walk 5 miles or 10 miles, or do you join a group? Because we all know getting started is always the most challenging point, because you want to do it right.
Yeah, I mean, so the starting point sometimes depends on who you're talking to, you know, what the person's like. And I would often have a bit of a chat with people if I was advising them about, you know, what do they like to doing, where do they live, that sort of thing. Often it's as easy as just going out the door and walking around the block. And I often would suggest they do that with somebody. Or, of course, we've had that issue of not being able to do things with people recently, or just be accountable to someone. So, you know, get together with a friend and say, right, I'm going to go for a walk today. I'm going to text you or message you when I'm going, and I'm going to text or message you when I come back, because
Mm.
that accountability does work its magic. And it's one of the things that people on my group use it for as well, for being accountable.
So is there like a minimum amount of walking you should do per week or per month, or is it just you do it how you feel?
I believe you do it how you feel. I mean, 10,000 steps is something that is quoted, I think, pretty much worldwide as an amount of steps, which is somewhere between, oh, now I've forgotten, 4 and 5 miles. Um,
Yeah, about that.
that, yeah, that is good for keeping you healthy. But you know, at the beginning, that amount of walking can seem really scary. And so I
Hmm.
would rather ease people into it. You know, if you can find a group as well, and now, I mean, I'm starting to think about getting my groups up and running again. If you can find some people to do it with, whether that's a group you join or again you just get some friends together, then that definitely helps. But in my community, we have people who even have limited mobility, who just do what they can. And it's also not, I mean, ideally, yes, go out daily if you can, but it's also about just integrating walking into your life, and maybe creating what I would call mini walking adventures with friends and with family, because you can you can do something from your house that doesn't cost you a penny and lasts an hour or so. You can take some money with you and buy a coffee or an ice cream, or you can
Mm.
organize a walking holiday. You know, you can do everything in between. So really, I think it's up to you and your own creativity. But if it gets you out and moving and it's beneficial to you mentally and physically, then go do it. It's wonderful.
Mm. So you just talked about your own community. I know that you have your website 1millionwomanwalking.com, one as a number, and you offer professionally guided retreats and experiences about walking. Can you tell us something about that?
I, again, because I work mainly with women, and it's not that I don't like men, it's just as a woman
Hmm.
myself, I feel I can bring a lot more. Um, I have walked the Camino de Santiago in France and Spain, and I found, I'm not religious, but I found that quite a spiritual walk. And I always felt that I wanted to take groups of women out. One of the issues with women is that they take on an awful lot of things themselves. And so their needs are often not looked at until everyone else's are, and often that means not at all. So by taking women out on a group, organizing most of the things for them, giving them help in the things that I can't organize for them, like their flights, but you know, guiding them and
Hmm.
ensuring that, you know, we stay in hotels and we get our bags carried and all of those things, then they have no excuse but to look at themselves. And you know, it's a great bonding experience. And we walk in a group, but we sometimes there's just twos. We do some mindful walking. I encourage everybody to spend at least a little time walking on their own with no headphones and no distractions, and really therefore having to address and listen to the thoughts that are coming up. And we do some personal development stuff as well. And it's an experience because it's the scenery, it's the food and the wine, it's the bonding, it's the opportunity to just give to yourself and maximize on this gift of 5 days or whatever you're giving yourself.
Mm. You just talked about mindful walking, and especially on mindfulness and about the different aspects of mindfulness. There has been a lot of research at the Greater Good Science Center, which is an institution at the Berkeley University, led by Dr. Keltner and Emiliana Simon Thomas. So there's strong scientific evidence for this. What do you consider mindful walking? What makes what makes walking mindful instead of just walking?
Well, I kind of alluded to it earlier, and that's just being aware of what's around you and also to being in the moment. Now, I'm sure that maybe the mindful walking that I practice may not completely fill the definitions of a lot of the scientists, but it's definitely a good place to start. And I used walking as a way of recovering from burnout and adrenal fatigue in 2014, 2015. And I know now that when I want to just de-stress, I take myself out for a walk and I notice so much about what is around me. And of course, it's very pleasurable when it's in nature, but you notice the fungi, you notice the trees, you notice the plants, and you hear the sounds. I have a free 7-day mindfulness course that people can do, and they can go and practice each of the elements of mindfulness and see how they get on with it. And it's a great first step just to making yourself more grounded, more at one with the environment, and therefore recharging yourself and giving yourself some headspace.
So the title of your book is How Walking Saved My Life. You just alluded to it. When you started walking, there must be a certain point where someone told you that might be a good idea. To wrap this interview up, when someone is sitting there right now listening to this podcast and think, where to start? What are Heather Waring's top 3 tips to get started with walking right now?
Don't put it off any further. Just go out and do it. Walk out your front door, walk down the street, walk around the block, walk to the park and back. Something simple, something straightforward, and enjoy it. I mean, actually, that would be my second point. Enjoy it. Really appreciate the moment and just see what can be doing, what you can experience, what you can see, what you can feel. And then I think the third thing is make some plan for how you want to develop this. What do you want to achieve through this walking? Is it purely a physical thing, or do you just want to have it as a new hobby? And maybe within that is, where can I walk and who can I walk with?
Excellent advice. Of course, I'm going to put your contact data in the show notes of this podcast so people can get in touch with you anytime they like to. So at the end of this interview, there's only one thing for me left to say. Heather, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Niels. It's been a pleasure.